So we have here a assembly that you may have seen before. So there is a fixed element and there is a flexible subassembly that is currently kind of working, although there are problems with this subassembly that are subject of other videos. But for this purpose, let's say we have a situation where it seems to work. If we examine this subassembly, we see that this bearing is free. We see that there is a transition, I think. How is this constraint called? It's a rotation translation constraint that constrains the rotation of this threaded screw with the translation of this nut. So if once this nut travels on the screw rotates, so it simulates as the thread would work. And now the same movement is available here in the assembly where I have placed this flexible component, so everything seems to work fine. If I drag this, it's working. If I drag this, it is working, so no problem. But now what I wanted to do is to constrain the face of the nut with the face of this stiffener, so it was not possible to drive the nut out of the screw. So it was only possible to get it into the, let's say, collision, into the position it touches the stiffener. So now I will apply this constraint. So I will apply mate between the face of the washer and the face of the stiffener with a minimum value of 0 and maximum value not specified, as it only concerns me, so it could not go farther than that. And this constraint was obviously accepted. But now what has happened is I can no longer drag any of those components, which is interesting when I try to drive this constraint, let's say to 300, then as you can see it properly translates the movement of the nut into the rotation of the handle. So basically the relationship between the components is somehow followed, but what has happened? But this assembly have stopped to be draggable as it is now. So this is kind of problem, because flexible assemblies should be flexible. So in this case obviously something is not working, as the constraint solver is not capable of, or not sure if it's constraint solver, but still there is a problem because this assembly is not draggable. If however, I will delete this constraint. If however this constraint would have been applied in the flexible assembly, so I'm not sure what the distance is, but I will just check it roughly. So from here, let's see, the distance from there to here is 24. So let's set it to, no, why perimeter? I want the distance. Not this side, sorry, it's a little late. So distance is 20.17, so 70, so I put 21. So if I constrain this face as before, but this time with a face of the handle with a minimum distance of 21, This basically doesn't allow this nut to go closer than that, but still this assembly is draggable. It is basically working fine. I can either rotate the handle or whatever, or drag this nut along. So basically it does work. I will just save it here, and once this is here, this assembly is still draggable, and I can drag this nut, but not farther than this. Where is this constraint? Then no, it is not that. I need to find a nut. So I can drag it, but not farther than this constraint allows me to. So basically now this works as I would expect the flexible assembly to work. Only problem is that I do not want this constraint in the flexible subassembly here. Where is it? But I want this constraint, as it is physically limited, in the top level assembly, because it's physically limited here. So I want this constraint that limits the position of the nut, so it could not be positioned ridiculously. I want it here. But when I apply it here, it doesn't work anymore. So this is a problem, that as flexible assembly stops being draggable once I apply the range constraint on the top level. I will now delete it so you can have the original dataset. Why this constraint applied on the top level destroys the functionality, while in the same time when present in the sub component it does not.